right, so here are the 6 reasons why we must oppose Pennsylvania Senate Bill 76 and Pennsylvania House Bill 76. Now, for those of you who may not be familiar with the bills, they are aimed at eliminating property taxes as the chief funding source for public education and replacing those with state-level taxes such as an increase in our sales tax from 6% to 7%, expanding the number of items that would be taxed by a little bit, and increasing our state income tax rate from 3.07 to 4.95, basically going from 3% to 5% of personal income. All right. Now, I was a school board member on the Wyoming Valley West School Board. This was back in the mid-'90s. And one of the first lessons that I learned, and the first hard lesson that every school board member learns, I think, is that 95% of your school budget is fixed. Nothing can be done about it. Right off the bat, 75 to 80% is teacher salaries, benefits, and pensions. Add to that your administrators' salaries, benefits, pension. Throw in your support staff, maintenance, and so forth. Salary, benefits, pensions. Now, schools continue to go on, so you got to open the doors. You got to heat them, you got to cool them. So utilities are fixed. Transportation is fixed because you still got to get the kids to the schools. Most of your school budget is fixed. There's not a thing you're going to do about them. The only way you're going to affect a school budget is through teachers' contracts. That's 70 to 75% of your budget. If you don't get that right, that's what's going to explode your school budget. So you have, year to year, a fixed amount of expenses, and you're not going to do much about them. Now, you can say stop buying textbooks. You can say stop this, cut this program, and so forth. But it's not going to amount to much. It really isn't. 95% of your budget is fixed. So what Pennsylvania Senate Bill 76 does is move us from a fixed source of revenue to a volatile source of revenue. So that's the number one reason why we must oppose this bill. Sales tax and personal income tax are subject to the health of the economy. Think about what would have happened to school budgets back in 2008, 2009, 2010, even 2011. When the financial crisis ground the economy to a halt, sales tax revenue plummeted. Personal income tax revenue plummeted as millions lost their jobs. What do you think would have happened to school budgets, not only in those 4 years, because it would have affected budgets going forward, because you still have to backfill your revenue for those lost years, because nothing would have changed. I was talking to State Senator John Gordner. He's an opponent of Senate Bill 76, and I asked him, what do the proponents of Senate Bill 76 tell you when you mention, the economy? What if we have a recession? And here's his response. He said, well, their people tell us that as long as we don't have a recession in the first 10 years, we should be okay. Let me repeat that. As long as we don't have a recession in the first 10 years, we should be okay. How's that for rolling the dice? Is that the casino you want to operate in? Is that the roll of the dice you want to take? As long as we don't have a recession in the first 10 years, we should be okay? Let me read you a list of the years since the Great Depression back in the 30s, of the years that we've had a recession in the United States. 1937, 1945, 1949, 1953, 1958, 60 through 61, 69 and 70, 73 through 75, 1980 through 1982, 1990 and 1991, 2001, 2008 through 2010. You could probably throw in 2011 there as well. As long as you don't have a recession in the first 10 years, you should be okay. We have proven over 80 years that we can't do that the business cycle is not going to do that. Within any 10-year period, you're going to have a recession. And what's going to happen to your revenues? What do you think is going to happen? You're going to have severe deficits because the economy is not going to keep up with the fixed budgets of school boards, of school districts. It's not going to happen. You're taking us from a predictable source of revenue to a volatile source of revenue, and that is not going to be good. That is not going to be good. Second reason, we keep talking about eliminating property taxes, but this bill does not eliminate property taxes. You're still going to get a bill from your county. You're still going to get a bill from your municipality. The politicians in those two entities know if Senate Bill 76 passes that, well, we've given them such great relief on property tax for your school districts, it won't be so bad if we increase our property taxes. So your county bill is going to go up. Your municipality bill is going to go up. They're going to be less scared to raise the millage rate because they know that you got such relief on your property taxes. Reason 3. You will be removing businesses from paying into school budgets. You will be removing businesses, Walmart, Sheetz, and so forth, will now have no responsibility to pay property taxes. That's what Senate Bill 76 does. So businesses who have paid a good chunk of money to school boards, to school districts, will no longer have that responsibility. You've removed them from the tax rolls. That money has to be made up. Who is going to make up that money? Businesses will no longer pay property tax under Senate Bill 76. And let's go beyond businesses. And let's look at these colleges, King's, Wilkes, College of Misericordia, but especially King's and Wilkes, who are gobbling up land left and right and paying no property taxes. Now, I can already hear everyone screaming, but they pay payments in lieu of taxes. Okay, so they go down to the courthouse and they say, yeah, I know, we own all this land and it would contribute a lot of money to school budgets and so forth, but we're a nonprofit and we're not have to pay it. But I tell you what we're going to do. We'll negotiate a payment. So if we owe $50,000 in taxes, I tell you what, we'll give you $20,000. And we'll do that out of the kindness of our hearts. But the real problem, though, is with King's and Wilkes and all the other colleges, Penn State, College of Misericordia, eventually what they're going to say is, wait a second, there are no more property taxes. So why are we making payments in lieu of taxes? We can cut that out. We can stop making these payments to the school districts because there are no property taxes anymore. So those payments in lieu of taxes are kind of stupid. Let's not do that anymore. Bingo. Now all the colleges have even more incentive to gobble up land and get it off the tax rolls. Also, think about what you're doing to your own income taxes and sales taxes. You think you're getting a break on property taxes. They're just going to be replaced with the personal income tax and the sales tax. You're going to be paying more in sales tax. That's going to be eating at your budget. And you're going to be paying 2% more on your income. If you make, let's say, $50,000, your tax bill goes from roughly $1,500 to $2,500. If you're a dual income family making, let's say, $100,000 a year, your Pennsylvania income tax goes from $3,000 to $5,000. That's $2,000 right there. How much are your property taxes? This is not providing tax relief. It is not. 4, control. When you move from a local source of revenue to a statewide source of revenue, you have removed control not only from your school board, but from you, the voter, the power over that money. You are taking revenue away from your school boards and decision making on those funds from your school board and shifting it to 150 legislators down in Harrisburg. Are you out of your mind? Are you out of your ever-loving mind to move the power from your local source, from your local politicians, to the Harrisburg politicians? Have you lost your mind? All decisions are better made at a local level. You've taken power away from your school board. Now, you may think you have 9 morons running your school board. I get it. I get it. But at least you have power over them. At the local level, you can replace them. You are never going to replace the Harrisburg politicians. Never. Also, if you move control from your local school board to Harrisburg, guess what you've done? You've concentrated the power. And what happens with concentrated power? One of the first things that's going to happen is teachers' unions are going to wipe their brow and say, man, we don't have to go after 501 school boards. All we have to do is sway 150 legislators down in Harrisburg. And I don't know the exact number of legislators down in Harrisburg right now, but let's go with 150. You've concentrated now their power in Harrisburg. And you can't give me a good reason for that to come about. You can't. There is no good reason to move power from yourselves and your local school board to Harrisburg. You're out of your minds. You're just out of your minds. You can't do that. Also on that point, if the majority of revenue and responsibility for that revenue is taken away from local school boards, where is their incentive to control costs? And here's another thing that proponents of Senate Bill 76 don't like to talk about. And hidden in that bill, what gets overlooked, is the authority granted to school districts to impose a personal income tax, and I think it's up to 1.5%. So you think you're going to get property tax relief, but if a school district decides that it needs money, it can also impose a 1.5% local property tax, or local income tax, excuse me. So you've gone from 3% state income tax to 5% state income tax. And then the school district has the right to add another 1.5 onto that. No incentive to control costs. None. Senate Bill 76 makes things worse. Now, I want property tax reform. I want tax reform. But the way to do that is not Senate Bill 76. And finally, the 6th reason why we need to oppose Pennsylvania Senate Bill 76. And this one has less to do with the bill itself, less to do with the mechanics of the bill, and more of a broad philosophical reason. And that is this. We are standing in a boat, and there's a hole in the boat. And we're using this bucket called property taxes to scoop the water and throw it overboard just to try to stay afloat. What these two bills do is say, hey, put that bucket down, grab our shiny new bucket called an increase in sales taxes and increase in personal income tax, and use this bucket to bail out the water. So we're going to take this new shiny bucket and scoop up the water and throw it overboard just to stay afloat. Meanwhile, the real problem goes unaddressed. The real problem is that there's a hole in the boat. We are spending far too much on public education. Public education, colleges and universities, and healthcare. The inflation and the spending in those three areas have just outstripped everything. The seed was planted for this disaster long ago, when politicians took the easy way out and they didn't want to pay government workers a good salary, and they said, hey, on the back end, we'll give you pensions. So accept a lower salary, and you'll make up for it in retirement. You'll retire very well off. This way we can hide it from the taxpayers. But the 80s, 90s, all of a sudden, teacher salaries took off. And now, not only are they making 4 to 5 times what the average taxpayer makes, they're walking away with sweetheart pensions. That's the hole in the boat. And it doesn't matter which bucket you use. The hole in the boat is going to sink the boat. You pass Senate Bill 76, there's going to be a lot of backslapping. Everybody's going to feel good. Hey, we did something about funding education, when all it did was ignore the problem. And how many more decades are we going to go with a hole in the boat? This is not the answer. Pennsylvania Senate Bill 76 is not the answer. The answer is to fix the hole in the boat. That's what we need in Harrisburg. It is a wrong approach to strip power from local officials, concentrate it in a few legislators in Harrisburg, and then ignore the real problem. These two bills do nothing for tax relief. The majority of taxpayers will still be paying the same amount or more with these two bills. All we're doing is shifting from one bucket to another, and we're trying to call it tax reform. At the same time, it strips power from your local officials and you, the voter, and concentrates it in the legislators in Harrisburg. And when it's concentrated there, what do you think is going to happen eventually come budget time? Do you think maybe Philly and Pittsburgh and Allentown are going to get the attention? Do you think maybe they're going to get just a little more, and the next time just a little more of the education funding? Don't you think the Philly schools are going to be crying about their schools a little more? And gee, candidate, if you're running for governor, you better promise something to Philly. You better promise something to Pittsburgh. You've also removed any incentive for local school officials to control costs, because they're not on the hook anymore. They don't have to go to the voters and raise property taxes, $1 mill, $2 mills, $6 mills. They don't have to do that anymore. So they're not going to care what they're spending. Here's what Senate Bill 76 reminds me of. It reminds me of a pharmaceutical company that develops a drug for one specific purpose. Let's say it's to take away the pain of an earache. All right, so take this drug and the pain of the earache will go away. However, and just like you see on these television commercials, they tell you what the drug will do, and then they have a whole list of disclaimers. So take our drug, get rid of the earache, but your hair is going to fall out, your teeth are going to fall out, you'll develop respiratory problems, etc., etc. But the earache will be gone. With Senate Bill 76, there is such a focus on getting rid of property taxes that all the other stuff that will happen gets ignored. Take the drug, get rid of your earache, but your hair is going to fall out, your teeth are going to fall out, and you'll develop respiratory problems. Pass Senate Bill 76, and you'll get rid of your property taxes. But you'll still be paying more in taxes because of the rise in the income tax rate and the sales tax. You'll lose control of that money by shifting it from your local area to Harrisburg. You risk budget shortfalls during economic hard times. You leave no incentive for school boards to control costs. You concentrate power in Harrisburg and give teachers' unions the power to control them. This is a bad deal. I want tax reform. I want tax relief more than anyone. This is not it. Pennsylvania Senate Bill 76, Pennsylvania House Bill 76 are not it. They are not the answer. Fix the hole in the boat.